Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we have a muscular guest.
This is Craig Hess. He owns a funeral home and crematory. Is that the correct
Just a
term?
funeral home, soon to be 2 funeral homes.
Okay.
Yep.
Soon to be 2 funeral homes. He's not too far away from where Dakota and I grew up. I grew up in a villa. Dakota grew up in Kentville. Looks like Craig's out of Rome City.
Wolcottville technically is my native town, with the big town of Wolcottville where dreams come true. But now Rome City, Sylvan Lake, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So we're excited to have you on. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it. First and foremost, I do appreciate you guys. It's an honor to be here today, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you know Cody?
Absolutely.
Meyers, the guy that
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I used to met him at the gym a long time ago, back when I had hair. So back when I was a young stud with hair, now I'm not sure. I'm like the Walmart version of The Rock now. So
Yep.
something like that.
You're like the Rock, not Vin
Not the
Diesel.
Walmart version.
Not Vin Diesel, you know.
You don't want to be Vin Diesel. No, he's like a has-been. You see him now, I was like, oh, geez, that's like a dad bod. Oh, God, yeah. But The Rock still has it going for him.
Yeah.
Give him that, yeah.
Yeah, when they fought, I mean, The Rock looked way bigger.
So that scene in The Fast and Furious, I was literally sitting at the movie theater in Kendallville. And there's the build-up. It's there. You see they're about ready to go at it head-to-head. Some dude stands up, and he has like a button down. He takes it, and he rips his shirt, and he goes, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what that guy's on, but I need it. Kendallville, meth's up there, so we have that going for us. But I shouldn't say that.
Was that guy doing that?
Yeah, he literally did. Yeah, he literally ripped his shirt, like the buttons and all. I remember.
Was he ripped?
Not at all.
Oh.
No, not at all. No, he shouldn't have done it.
You shouldn't have done it.
But hey, now we're talking about it on a podcast. How many years later? So that's his moment of fame.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Made an impression.
yeah. Oh goodness.
So take us through how you grew up. It looks like you grew up in Wolcottville. Did you go to East Noble?
I went to Lakeland High School,
Okay.
which is in LaGrange. So. From the time I was a kid, I went through Wolcott Mills Elementary School, Wolcottville, went all through the Lakeland School Corporation, graduate of 2011. Actually graduated early to start college early. I was one of those. I think they tried to suspend me from school because I skipped so much school, so they let me graduate early. If that I don't think that really makes sense, but so I started college when I was freshly 18, and all I did my first semester was party, try to meet women, party some more, try to meet more women, and party some more. So we about flunked out our first semester. We got C's, and I was proud of that. So, but we're still here. So.
When you say we, what do you mean by that?
Me and my old alter ego,
Okay.
That guy, he's not here anymore. I mean, he sometimes comes out every now and then. That was Patricia. No, I'm kidding. No.
What is that movie? Now you're thinking
yeah, what was that movie? It's
a one word.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah.
But that part's hilarious though. It says
Yeah.
that was Patricia.
Yeah, that was a crazy
Yeah.
movie.
So did you end up graduating college then?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I started off it was IPFW back in the day. Now I believe it's Purdue because my dad teaches there full time. I was at IPFW my first semester, kind of figured out that I need to find some type of path that is a little bit more linear, something that I can specialize in. I think that nowadays people, back when we would have all been in high school, they just preach, go get a 4-year degree and then go into more debt with student loans, et cetera, et cetera. As you guys are seeing and as I've found, I think when you specialize in one area, some type of trade or something along those lines, I think you become more marketable. So I wanted to go to school I wanted to be a doctor. That was my original thing. Believe it or not, I wanted to be an ER doctor. I loved this show growing up called ER. I thought that it was like, I need to be like Dr. Carter off ER. He's a stud. He's got it going for him, probably making a bunch of money. All this, trauma and stuff, like this would be really neat. So I went and I job shadowed at the local doctor's office, Dr. Booth in LaGrange, still my family doctor. And I think one of the last kids to sign up for like that program. It was like called CDC. It was a career placement, get out of school type of event is what it was, So I viewed it as that. So I was like, oh, I'll go sign up at the doctor's office. Go down there, of course. I'm like one of the last students to sign up. So they say, hey, you need to find a new place to do your job shadowing. And I'm like, shit. So I go back and I tell the counselor, I'm like, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't have any options. That's the only doctor's office in town. She's like, well, what else could you do? And I was being a smart ass. And I said, well, if I can't deal with them when they're alive, I'll deal with them when they die. And she's like, that's a great idea. You should go to the local funeral home. And I was like, oh God, this is creepy. I don't want to do this shit. So I go down, and there's 2 funeral homes in LaGrange. There was Carney Frost Funeral Home and the other one, Fruit May Funeral Home. And I reached out to Fruit May Funeral Home first. That's the kind of premier funeral home in town back then. And so I reached out to the owner there, and he's like, yeah, you can come down. I'll tell you about the business, whatever. So go down there. I'm wearing a suit, 18 years old, nervous, sweating. I can feel the beads of sweat dripping down to my, my butt from my back, but no big deal. I go in there, and he paints this horrible image of it. Mm-hmm. He's like, so money in this. It's an awful schedule. You have horrible, things that you have to see and deal with. He's like, if I were you, I'd get out of it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this. That sounds terrible. So I go back to the counselor. I'm like, hey, I don't really want to do this. I think it sounds bad. This guy kind of told me not to do this. And she's like, well, there's another funeral home in town. Oh, shit, okay, here we go. Call up that funeral home, and I get the lady who previously owned it, and her name was Melissa. Melissa is the sweetest Southern lady you'll ever meet. And she's like, yeah, I'll show you the ropes. Come down and we'll get you acclimated. So they hired me on the spot. I started doing, pickups in the middle of the night for them when someone would pass away, assisting on funerals, that kind of stuff. And I did that for about a year, and then I decided to go on. I was at IPFW during that time period. So this is like right at the end of like high school, first year of college.
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $9.97. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
And so then I decided to go to Ivy Tech. Ivy Tech had a mortuary science program. So I went through, that's a 2-year program, associate's degree, and then you have to take a national board exam, which I only missed one question on. And I'm proud of that. That's like one thing, 'cause I didn't care about school at all. I missed one question on that, and I got a 97% on my state board. I was proud of that. So those were a couple things that no one will care about except me. But still, and my dad now is, he's getting ready to go to school as well. He's actually in the process of completing his mortuary science degree as well. And he has a PhD. He's a professor right now at Purdue here in town. So this is a second career for him at 60 years old. And I'm making sure that he knows that I got really high scores, because I was like the guy at school that didn't give a shit. And he's like trying to get extra credit and all this stuff like a typical nerd. So, but I'm proud of him.
What did your dad have a PhD in?
Global leadership, I believe, like marketing, global leadership, something like that.
Okay.
Yep. He's a smart guy, the most down to earth guy you'll ever meet, and that's gonna be my business partner as we first location of our funeral homes in LaGrange, as I mentioned, and then we purchased land at the beginning of the year, and we're building a second location down here in Fort Wayne right now.
And when you lived at IPFW, you lived at the dorms?
I did not. So I lived with another couple that we rented a townhome. It was Woodbridge. It's off of help me out here. It's what road is that? It's not Washington Center. It's like down from like Pierre's and that area.
Oh, Maple Crest?
Yeah. Well, no, that's like a little further away.
So you're talking.
This is.
What is that freaking road? It is Washington Center.
Yeah, it's like
and,
Washington Center and something else.
Yeah, Washington Center, and I can't remember that road, but yeah, I know what you're talking.
All I know is I don't remember most of it, because I was pretty much drinking and having a good time back then. So I don't even know if I slept in my bed more than twice. I shouldn't admit that on camera. My bad.
So what got you interested in doing that then? Like
mortuary science?
Yeah, like you're like, all right, hey, this is it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I just interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I got really excited for a second. So I'll tell you what, for me, when I first got into it, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I was first generation in my family, and I remember I was helping out on my very first pickup where someone had passed away at their home. So we call them transfers from place of passing to the funeral home or into our care. And I remember going in there, and it was a very, very somber, serious atmosphere, obviously. Here you are getting ready to take someone's loved one from a place of, where they passed away at, and emotions are very tense, they're very high. Everything needs to be done very delicately. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm going to help these people during one of their worst moments of life. Like, this is something. This isn't just I'm going to sign up for a job and do a job and get paid for it. Like, this is a calling to me. Like, this is something that if I'm going to do this, I need to put my soul into it because they need me. And so I just felt like I was doing the right thing. You know, it always felt like it was the right thing to do. Like, it was some type of like, this is my purpose of life, you know. And I've done several different things. I've been decent at different things. I did martial arts for 8 years. I played a card game. It was called Magic the Gathering. I played a couple of professional events. Wow. I did bodybuilding. I'm thinking I have 19 entries. I won 15 of my 19 entries, but nothing will ever compare to that feeling of when someone tells you, thank you for taking care of my loved one. Like, there's just nothing that beats that feeling. And I feel like it was my duty on earth to do that. And more or less, you know, I see the industry is interesting. I mean, there's people that are in the funeral service for all sorts of different reasons. You know, there are people who they had a bad experience, so they wanted to do it for that reason, or they lost a loved one and they wanted to make sure that they could take care of people the same way that funeral home took care of them because that was a positive experience. Some people are in it for the money. I think for myself, it was just simply taking care of people. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I did the right thing. So it's been, I think this is my 12th year working in the industry now. It's all I've ever done. It's all I know.
Wow. So did you know, so a lot of people struggle with finding their purpose, you know what I mean? Like the reason that they're here.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, you had a lot of different things you're good at. I mean, obviously you're fit, you have all these different options, you know what I mean? You go bodybuilding, you could go play Magic cards professionally.
I really could. I probably could have made money doing that too if I really wanted to. Yeah.
Yep. So you could have all these options. How did you know when you went and actually was like, okay, I went and did this thing? Did you know right in that moment, or was it evolving, or how did you decide?
Definitely evolving. So I would say we're gonna get deep here for a second. Yeah, this is where the story comes to fruition. So I got into funeral service. It was 2011. In 2013, my best friend took her life. Worst day of my life. Worst things ever happened to me. I mean, still to this day, it's why I am who I am. And we'll touch on that next. But so she passed away. She committed suicide, took her own life, and left me devastated. I mean, I didn't know what to do. That's how I got into bodybuilding, matter of fact. So she passed away on October 18th of 2013. I started lifting weights the next morning, and it just stuck. I mean, I used to go to the gym for 6 hours a day at times. I was just that's just what I needed to do. I mean, that's a side of me that a lot of people don't know. You know, it's the things that I had to do to get from that dark place to a place where I am now. I mean, it wasn't pleasant. And I did it on my own. I never once saw a counselor for any of that. I never once took medication, nothing. I literally self-medicated. Not that I'm against counselors. I think it's great. I've been to one before for something else. And same with medication. Some people need that. It's just not for me. So I was glad I was able to do it that way. But so she passed away, and after you deal with a death that's close to you, then you have to go work around it all the time. So I was an intern in 2013 at D.O. McComb & Sons Funeral Home here in town. Great experience. I had been an intern for 1 month. She committed suicide, and then I had to go back. So that was like on a Friday. She passed away on a Friday. Visitation was on a Sunday. Service was on the next Monday. I was back that next Tuesday doing funerals for other people. That's probably not healthy. You should probably not have to go. And I think the very first, matter of fact, I remember it. The very first funeral that I helped with as an intern right after she passed away was a young man who also had shot himself. And I remember thinking, okay, like, I need to figure this out. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'll be completely transparent. There was one moment during the visitation I went to the bathroom and I had to cry because I was so emotionally devastated from my own friend. So that's a tough one. That's not something that I talk about all the time. But so those events made me who I am. And I believe when you deal with tragedy or you go through some type of, challenging moment in life, I don't think it's meant to crush you. I think that it's meant to build you. I truly believe that. As a matter of fact, I embrace that. I love when something like horrible happens because it's like, okay, how do I fix this? How do I put the puzzle pieces back together to become better and on top? And so far, every event that's ever happened to me in my life that's been that way, I have become better afterwards. And I know some people, they'll use those things as a crutch and, well, I can't do this because this happened to me. Not me. won't do that. No, absolutely not. If you're going to remain stagnant because one bad thing happened in your life and you're not going to build off that, you will get nowhere in life. I truly believe that. So for me, when something catastrophic happens, I'm like, okay, time to start grinding again. Let's do this. It's just always been how I've been, I guess. Probably not a healthy way of doing things all the time, but it's worked for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when that happened, did that like lead into, okay, now I have to like help more people because of my friend, or like how did that lead back
Kind
into
of
the
skipped what you asked.
into the purpose?
Yeah. So back to that. I keep going on tangents. I have so much to share.
Yeah, I love it.
I got so much to share.
It's our responsibility to lead you back to answer the questions. You just keep telling us the stories.
Yeah, we'll be talking about weird stuff here in a little bit.
tell us the
So
stories,
we haven't got to Tinder yet. So no. But it kind of turned me away from it. There were times I wanted to get out of the business. I mean, right after she had passed away and trying to, I still needed to make a paycheck. So I still had to go in and do all that. I still had an internship to complete. I still had duties as a man to complete. But it was challenging, and there were several times throughout my career I wanted to quit. I wanted to do something different. One time I wanted to go back to school and be a lawyer. I mean, it's been all over the board. I looked into starting a painting business once. I mean, it's anything to get away from it at times. But when I really found that I was in the right place was when I took ownership, which was at the end of 2019, early 2020.
Wow.
So when I first bought that funeral home, that's what did it. That's what I was like, okay, my name's on the sign now. I get to do things my way. And I have perfect reviews. Every family that we ever serve, we get cards written into us. I have a collection of cards, people, thank you cards. And, my philosophy has always been, I didn't come from a lot of money. I remember when I was in mortuary science college, I had to go to Ivy Tech in Indianapolis for the program. This is the only place in the state that offered it at the time. And, knock our mic out of the way 6 times. And so I had $13.22 in my bank account, and I took my final. $13.22. And I remember thinking to myself, I got to do something to make this change. And I will never forget that feeling. I didn't have enough money to stop at McDonald's. And it was like gas money, right? So I'm lucky I made it back. I think my grandpa gave me $20, actually. I think I was getting ready to leave that morning. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you $20. And my parents would help. My parents were great parents. It's nothing like that. It's just they wanted me to kind of go off on my own, do it my own way. And I'm thankful they did. I grew up in an environment that it taught me how to be a man. Traditional values, I believe in those still. So, that being said, there were times where I wanted to get out of it. But then once I had the ownership role, that's when I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be at. And it's kind of to piggyback off that, I went through a divorce. So, and I'm going to just touch on that because it kind of goes into this even more so. Yeah. I went through a divorce at the beginning of 2022. I was with someone who just didn't fill my cup. Everything was all about her and her lifestyle and her friends, and I was on the last list of the to-do list every day. Lived that way. My first 5 years of marriage were great. The last 2 were pretty much I was on the back burner. And I finally one day I was like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I'm not going to. And I texted her and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. So I wanted to talk to her about it. And she's like, oh, I'm too busy. I won't be home till such and such, all this stuff. And so I'm like, so I asked for a divorce via text. That's the energy I got here. So, and she's a good person. She's a successful businesswoman. I don't wish anything ill upon her. But so it was after that, here's this really weird period where I own a business. I got to take care of people. Still trying to figure out my own mental health during that because, divorce is an emotional time period. Even if you're ready to be done, which I was the one wwho asked and initiated it, it still was hard. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to go through that ever again. I don't even wish it upon my worst enemy. Actually, I do wish it upon him. I don't really like that guy. I think he went through one too. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We'll talk about him later. No, I'm kidding. I don't have any enemies. But so after, you go through that process and it's such a emotionally draining process. I felt like I was neglecting my families at the funeral home. And I remember there was finally this time period. It was New Year's Eve, actually, of last year. I was sitting on the couch. And I thought, I need to get over this shit. This is annoying now. Here's this tragic event that happened in my life. now I'm going to take that, I'm going to piece it together, and I'm going to become better. Like we can't sit here and dwell and waller in this pity and sadness over someone who just didn't want me to be in their life. It's okay. Someone will want that. And I need to figure out how to become better. So sitting on the couch New Year's Eve, I don't drink a whole lot, so I don't really party much. So I was sitting there by myself. It was like, I think it was just like maybe 15 after midnight. So we're into the new year at this point. And I was dating a girl at the time. I didn't really like her that much. She was already asleep, if that tells you anything. So she was already asleep in the other room. And I'm like, I don't even like who I'm dating. I don't like, what am I doing? Like this life sucks. I got to figure something out. So I'm looking at my dog, who's my best friend of 9 years now. I'm like, Bella, what the hell do we do here? Like, I'm asking my animals at this point. I got 2 cats too. I'm like, what am I doing here? Are you guys going to help me out? Like, what's the options? And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what if I expanded my business somehow? Like, how do I do that? What do I do? And I'm thinking, like, I could go work for other funeral homes doing like trade embalming. So if like someone needs an embalming done and they want to hire out someone to do it for them, like the dirty work, and people make good money doing that, I thought I could start an embalming business. Like, nah, that schedule would suck. I don't really want to do that on top of my, my owning a funeral home. Then you're working for other people too. It's kind of weird again, I don't know. So I'm like, what if we bought a funeral home, like bought another funeral home? I'm like, nah, no one's selling right now. I don't want to do that. And I thought, what if we bought land, just built one? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah. Like, what if I bought land and I built a funeral home? That would be why not? I'm 30 years old. If it all crumbles, well, I'm in no worse of a position than I am now. I mean, I'm already emotional. So I may as well do something I could, I can sink energy into. And so it's at this point like 12:30 in the morning, and I'm like set on building this funeral home. Like, I already have like the layout in my head, how I want it to be done. Call my dad. He answers. Dad, what's going on? Well, not much. We're sitting here. My parents don't do anything on New Year's Eve either. They've been married forever and they're boring. And I'm like, Dad, I think when you get out of school, we should build a funeral home. He's like,
it's like, I got a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, literally, you had to build a new funeral home. He's like, really? He's like, well, should we talk about this more tomorrow? I said, absolutely not. We're going to talk about it right now. So on the phone with him until 2:30 in the morning. We're talking about this funeral home idea. And I have him on board. He's like ready to put his retirement into it, put his house up, all this stuff. Fortunately, we have a really good friend who is also going to be joining us too. So it's my dad's very best friend. He owns a bunch of farmland in Illinois, so he's one of our investors on that.
Wow.
So the 3 of us will be owners, and that New Year's Eve, I don't know if you want to call it New Year's Eve resolution or whatever. I guess resolution to get out of my mental head, weird mental head space and progress. That transpired into this. So now, here we are. I have one successful business, and thank God for that. And now I'm about to have one again, and I'm almost certain we will be probably one of the only family-owned firms in Fort Wayne. Everybody else either 50% corporate-owned or fully corporate-owned, and when you do that, you're paying a lot more. Your prices are getting inflated and families are suffering. So it goes all back to my $13.22. I didn't have a lot of money growing up. I don't need a lot of money to survive. As long as I can keep doing the right thing, then I'm happy. So that's the long-winded version of that.
Yeah.
Well, go back to when you bought the first.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was scared. It was terrifying.
How did you come up with the money for it?
We'll get into that. So this is the best story ever. So I was working down here at D.O. McComb and Sons Funeral Home again. They had got bought out by a corporation called Service Corp International or Dignity Memorial. You see it on all their signs. And they paid pretty well. It set hours, benefits. I thought I can do this for a little while. It's fine. And so I was there for about a year and a half. And my time period there for that year and a half, I think I had 5 different bosses. Like, the turnover rate was just insane. I mean, you have people down in corporate in Texas dictating how you serve families here in Fort Wayne. It was complete shit. That's the only way to put it. I am appalled I worked for that company. I don't care if they hear that. They can come after me. I'll take them out. I don't care. No, I'm kidding. But I'm kind of not, though. It's just not a good environment. People are paying for things they don't even want. They're, upselling, and there were quotas that we had to reach, all this crap. I mean, it was just like, I remember one time, this family, it was like a $17,000 funeral, which is already astronomical. And the obituary in the Fort Wayne paper was like how much was that? said it was $17. $13 was my bank account. It was $17 over the estimate that we put on the statement. So the family still owed $17. I literally was on a corporate conference call for that $17 with like 3 head honchos down in corporate, and they're like belittling me. They're like pissed off that I didn't get the $17 collected. I'm like thinking to myself, first of all, F you, and F you. Second of all, $17,000 funeral and you're worried about $17? Like I can't reason with that, you know? So I knew I was in the wrong place. Well, about 6 months after that, they had this process where we had to, if someone were going to have a cremation completed, the family had to identify the individual, or we as the funeral home would identify the individual for them if they opted out of it. So there was a family that they opted out of it. They wanted me to do the identification for them. Went down, did the identification, signed my name, put the time on the paper. I forgot to put the date on the paper. They fired me for not putting the date on the paper. Let's go back to my friend committing suicide on October 18th of 2013. So this is the anniversary of her death. They fired me on October 18th of 2019. Double kicking the balls. Felt like shit about myself. Driving home, trying to fight back tears. Like, here I suck at being a funeral director. My friend died, you know, X amount of years ago because I was a bad friend. You know, I'm blaming myself for all this crap. Horrible time period. And I'm like, what do I do? You know, I mean, just talking about it, like if I were ever depressed in life, it were that day. And so I drive home, and, you know, my mom, dad, and wife at the time were like, oh, he'll be okay. He'll figure it out. I'm thinking, no, no, I'm ready to throw in the towel now. Like, you know, where's the white flag to start? You know, I surrender. Like, this shit sucks. And so I then finally, I'm like trying to apply for anything under the sun over that weekend. So it was October 18th of 2019 until that following Monday, I'm just applying to everything. I mean, I think I would have worked at McDonald's if you asked me to. I would have cleaned your guys' toilets, you know, whatever. I just needed something. And it was, I was on my way to a staffing agency. That's what it was. It was October, yeah, it was on I think it was the 21st again. It was, yeah, I think that's what it was. That Monday, the following Monday, they fired me on a Friday. Following Monday, I was heading to a staffing agency. And I got a phone call from the lady, that Melissa lady I told you about at the beginning of the podcast, who owned the Carney Frost Funeral Home. She goes, hey, you're not working for that funeral home anymore? I'm like, no, you know, I'm kind of sad about it. And she's like, well, you hear about what my dumbass husband did? I said, no, what'd your dumbass husband do? He was the one who actually owned the funeral home and was the funeral director. She goes, well, Mike left my ass. He went off to California to some woman. She's like, I don't want this damn thing. Come buy it from me. Wow. And I'm like, Melissa, I don't have any money. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that. And she's like, I don't give a shit. She said, come take it over from me. She said, we'll figure it out. And I think it was that night I went up there and we worked out a land contract. So that's how I started. I actually went on a land contract, old school style. So fortunately now we built to a spot where we don't have to do a land contract now. But in the beginning I had to.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
Talk about the terms of that land contract.
Oh my gosh.
Like she said, nothing down.
I would have to.
What did you have to do for her?
So she always makes this joke. let me get a drink for this one because it's
Like my husband left.
This is gonna be a long story.
She's like, my husband left me. I'm gonna go up to the funeral home and
So
let's talk about
I'm a sugar baby. I don't know. She always said to me if I couldn't make the payments to her each month, I could pay her in trade. I said, she's from Kentucky. I think they do that stuff down there. Yeah, she's a cool lady. She's like I've been fortunate in life, and I'm sure you guys have people like this in your lives too who are like mentors. I've had really good female mentors in my life. I don't know why, but I've always had really good women in my life. Probably why I'm picky about dating women, because I've had such good women. So I'm like, I'm not going to just date you. You have a nice ass, but I'm not going to date you. I mean, I might date you for a little bit of ass. I shouldn't say that. Okay, I'm probably going to date you because your ass is nice, but whatever. It might not be long term. So yeah, it was more or less we had to. She didn't make me pay anything down. So I essentially I took over the funeral home. I started redecorating, painting, all that stuff. January 1st of 2020. So when I got my LLC and all that stuff put together. and she had a set amount that she wanted each month. And she said, you do this, you pay down the total amount of what I want, but this is what I want each month. No interest, nothing. Is literally the best deal that you could ever come up with.
Can you tell us more? How much was it? Like, what was the amounts that she had to pay? Stuff like that? If you don't want to, you don't have to.
I don't really mind it.
I'm curious.
In the beginning, I mean, I didn't pay anything down. I have a monthly I pay $4,000 a month.
Okay.
For I guess you want to call it like my mortgage, so to say.
Yep.
So $4,000 a month, and I have my utilities on top of that.
And what's the interest rate?
I have no interest rate.
You have
with her.
0? Mm-hmm. Okay, wow. And then
that's just I guess here's the interest rate. There's an apartment above the funeral home. She has to live there as long as she's alive.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big deal to me. It's actually kind of nice because there are times where people pop up at the funeral home that want to get death certificates or get something that's at the funeral home, and I'm down here or somewhere else. I can call Melissa, hey, can you meet this people out front? And she does it for me.
That's
so
awesome.
we have a really good friendship. She's literally like a second mom. You know what I mean? And she knows everything about me. I tell her some of these stories. We can get into Tinder soon. I'll tell you all about that. I mean, I call her, hey, I got one of these Tinder dates. Oh, geez, wrap it before you tap it. She always says some like smart ass comment. I'm like, okay. I mean, I normally don't do that, but the wrapping part.
So what was the balance?
I feel like we're starting to turn to Howard Stern now. Are we going to like a Howard Stern setting? Or
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know Howard Stern?
No.
I know who he is. We don't need to go there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, they had him on American Idol, so he can't be that bad. But
yeah, we're not going to get into Howard Stern. You guys have any grapes? You ever seen an episode with the grapes?
No.
Oh, okay, we'll talk about it later.
So what's the balance left then? Like, what do you owe her now? Like, what's the long-term plan?
So I've been, what year are we in? 2023?
Yep.
I'd have to calculate it. I'd have to go back and I actually don't know how much I've paid into it. I know what the amount was. I mean, it was $400,000 what she wanted for the building, which is nothing. It's cheap.
Oh, it's just the building, but you got the business and everything too.
I got all their pre-arrangement files, all that stuff. I mean, there was future business already there.
Wow.
It wasn't a bad deal. It was. I mean, truthfully, guys like me who their parents didn't own it first, I would have never have had an option to be in this position if it wouldn't have been for someone like her. So
that's crazy.
I really owe her way more than what I'll ever even pay her. Because without that, I would never be here. So
yeah,
I'm thankful for that.
that's like 100 payments, so it's around 8.5 years or so.
Let's see where we're at here really quick.
That's pretty awesome.
How many months have I been there? So 12 times.
400,000. Yeah, it'd be divided by 4,000, so it'd be 100. Divide that by 12, so that's 8.3 years. You've been paying on it for about 3, so you probably got 5 years left.
It's not bad.
That's really good. I mean, for zero down, if you can ever get a zero down, and then you already have a cash flowing business, I mean, that's a no-brainer for anybody. Because so what is that? I'm curious on this too. What do funeral homes like profit per month?
Oh my gosh, it just depends on the call volume. So I'm in a small town, so it's a little different for me. A large city, I mean, it could. Oh God, I mean, you could do who I wouldn't even want to know. I mean, I want to know, but
yeah,
I mean, it could be pretty. It could be pretty substantial.
And you kind of hit it on the backside of the pandemic. Or were you wearing a mask and a visor when you were going out to these bodies and that sort of thing?
So I was Darth Vader the first time I ever dealt with COVID. I wore like a literal hazmat suit, and I had glasses on. I didn't wear my contacts today for whatever reason. It was all fogged up and stuff. And I'm fine, like, the hell with this shit. Like, I don't wear anything. I wear gloves when I do embalmings. The state's probably gonna see this and come shut me down. Like, I just don't. I don't do all the. I should. Everybody should. My dad will because he's an intern.
I was going to say with eye protection.
I don't. I'm like, I'll wear flip flops in there. It's just how I am. But I do wear gloves. But when COVID was prevalent, so I took over 2020. COVID happened like March of 2020. So like I was in business for like 2.5, 3 months. All of a sudden the pandemic happens, which was weird. You'd think it would be good for my business. It really wasn't. Because everybody then went from like traditional funerals to just like, cremation, just quick, easy deals. And then you also had the pushback. Like there were people, I remember there was this one, I had a family that had a fully funded traditional funeral, visitation funeral, nice casket, all that. They had 17 immediate family members. And they're like, well, we want to do a funeral. Dad prepaid all this. This is what Dad wants. He wants military honors. He wants the whole shebang. just because there's a pandemic, that's not fair to us. I agree with them. So I told them, I said, well, listen, I don't really give a shit. That's literally my exact words. I'm looking at this family. They just met me. I don't really give a shit what we do as long as you guys are happy. So I told them, I said, you know, if my dad and I will wear our masks. If you guys want to wear your mask, great. If not, you know, I can't control that. I'm not going to pick on some 6'5" grown man, but hey, put your mask on. He's going to eat me. So I'm not going to be that stickler on that. You know, people are allowed to do what they want in life. So I just told him, you know, hey, we'll host this whole thing. We'll do it normally. You guys can have your service. Military honors wouldn't come out because of COVID, but we still got a flag for him and stuff. So we still did what we did. And I presented the flag, did on the behalf of the Grateful Nation, you know, thank you for your loved ones, you know, all that stuff. So I still tried to do the best I could with everything. And that family called me about a year after that and thanked me. They said, you did the right thing. We appreciate that. And I'll never forget that. I think that I'll always try to do the right thing, you know, in life, because when you don't, and I don't know, I'm not like always the most spiritual and religious person, but I still believe that God's watching. You do something shitty, that he's going to see that and you're going to pay for it some way. So like, I'm not going to do anything bad. Like, I'm not going to screw anybody over. There have been so many times where I could have made an extra buck doing this or that. I can sleep at night knowing that I didn't do that. So I'm always trying to do the right thing. Always trying to make sure that, you know, whatever action I'm going to do, I'd want someone to do the same action towards me. You know, it's kind of goes along with the don't say nothing nice if you don't say anything at all. You know, just always try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a little bit about bodybuilding.
Oh God, that. yeah. I was man. I was a grinder with that. I sunk my soul into that sport. It was everything to me. When I went from being a nobody to every time I go into a gym, I always have one of the better physiques. I mean, it took me a little bit of time to do that, but I sunk my soul into it. I haven't missed a meal in 7 years. I've eaten 6 meals a day for 7 years now. I'm on the downward swing of that at this moment, but when I first got into bodybuilding, it was because my friend passed away. And I remember I was at this local gym, my high school gym, matter of fact, Lakeland High School. And I've been training pretty hard. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My first time I went into the gym and started lifting weights was right after she died. So I was YouTubing how to work out. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know how to bench press. I didn't know how to squat. Self-taught, you know. And so it's like 6 months into that, I started to respond. You know, like my body started to have this like natural shape to it. And this guy, he was a retired bodybuilder, was like, hey man, you should think about doing one of these bodybuilding shows. I go, bodybuilding show? Like the spray tans and like the man thongs? Well, it's not really like that, but it kind of. I'm like, that sounds gay. I don't want to do that. You know, another 6 months goes by, and the guy's like, man, you should really consider this. And I'm like, getting compliments now. Like, people are saying stuff. My girlfriend at the time was saying stuff like, yeah, you look kind of good now. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, wonder who else might think that. But anyways, so we just kind of progressed, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do one of these shows. So first show I did, it was in 2016. It was a local show in Fort Wayne. I think there were 10 guys in my class. I got third, and I was natural. I was a natural. I competed against guys who weren't natural. And I was like, you know, this is great. You know, I was actually able to do that, and you know, and I fell in love with the sport. So 2017, I competed twice. 2016 didn't have classic physique. They had just started with classic physique, and I was a men's physique guy my first year. The difference is the board shorts, and classics, the like the Arnold trunks, like Arnold Schwarzenegger trunks. And so my first year I did men's physique. Second year I was like, I got to be a classic physique guy. So, and I grinded that year. And my first year I got third place. Second year I got second and third place, and I was pissed. I walked off stage at the third show I did with the third place, and I was like, fuck this. Like, it's time to get serious. Like, you guys don't know what's about to happen. And I went to a dark place. I trained so hard from 2017 to 2018, did everything I needed to do to make sure I was going to win. And I showed up that day in Anderson in 2018. It was the Anderson bodybuilding show. I showed up, and I won men's physique, classic physique, both open, and I won the novice in both. So I walked away with 4 first-place trophies that day.
Dang.
And then 2019, I did the same thing. I won again. I think I won that year. I won 6 first-place trophies. And then 2020, 2020, I don't like to talk about that year. 2020 pisses me off. I should have won. I can show you the photos to prove it. But there was, a matter of fact, I kind of want to show him on here just to I called this guy out. Like, when are we going again? You know, I forget his name's like, he's from Michigan, but anyway, so his coach was the promoter of the show. And I had this guy beat in every angle. I was bigger. I was strong. I was leaner. I had the shape, and they gave it to this guy, and it was all political, and it pissed me off. 2021, I went back to that same show because I was like, you know what, the hell with you guys. Like, you know what the hell you're talking about. And I won Classic Physique, Men's Physique again. And then my divorce happened. I took some time off, and I started noticing a change in bodybuilding. The people are not the type of people I want to be around anymore. When I was living and breathing that, I had issues. I was overcoming the trauma from my friend passing away. I think I was probably unhappy at moments in my marriage, so like I sunk that energy into bodybuilding. It was something positive to put my time into. I'm not angry anymore, and I'm not upset about anything anymore. Life's good. I'm ready to build $1 million funeral home. You know, like life is good right now. My parents are still living. Like, I have all these close friends who are thriving, and like I don't have that negative energy to sink into that anymore. So I was actually in contest prep up until about a week ago. I was been dieting for about 4 weeks, and I just noticed that it's such a negative entity. The gym is not. The gym's not negative. The competition side of bodybuilding is. And then you start talking about steroids. You start talking about people with all these issues, and then you culminate that into or cultivate that into like an environment, like a gym scene,
like a culture.
Oh, it is. And then it's just so negative. It's not like, there are guys who go to the gym and they're super positive and happy and they're great guys to be around. I love goal-oriented people like that. Martial artists are the same way. I love that stuff. But bodybuilding's different. It's a very egotistical passion. And, you know, it's look at me. And you can see it. Like, if you follow any of the bodybuilders online, you can see like the dumb shit that they post, like war mode, I'm savage. Like, you're getting on stage with a spray tan and a man thong, and it's a beauty pageant. You're not a warrior. I have friends who have been in war. Like, you're not, like, you're nothing special. And so I just, like, and I realized that there's no payoff to it. There is no payoff. Like, could I go get my pro card? Absolutely. I believe I could in men's physique. I could absolutely get my pro card. I know pros who are men's physique competitors who I'm bigger than. I would have no doubt that I could do that. I get no financial benefit from that. I remember there's a local guy who is literally the best local bodybuilder I know, DeAndre Campbell. I think everybody knows DeAndre. I don't know if you guys know that name or not. But DeAndre, he's a pro classic physique competitor. He made it to the Olympia. He won the Tampa Pro Show to qualify for the Olympia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Olympia or not, but you have to win a pro show to qualify for the Olympia. And the Olympia is it's like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. Like, you want to go there if you're a pro. And so he qualified for that. He did okay at the Olympia, but his winnings for that pro show were less than what my cheapest memorial service would be. So he sunk all this stuff into, you know, X amount of weeks into this one show to win it. He got some cool photos. He got nowhere with it. And I'm not trying to take away from him. He can say that he won a pro show. I can't say that. But, I mean, in the broad scheme of life, I would much rather be more. And he does fine. The guy, I'm not trying to pick on him. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on him. He's a great guy. But I'm just saying, like, here's the best of the best. And he's not making it with this hobby or with this sport, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. He's not making it with that. How is someone like me going to make it with that? So I had to figure out, like, you know, what makes me feel best? Where am I the happiest at? And that's taking care of people. Taking care of people in the funeral home. I mean, and I still want to be big. I still want to be strong looking. I still have a duty to be, you know, like, in shape. I think as a professional, like, you should hold yourself to a certain standard, I think. I know, like, there's a guy named Tyler Seacrest we were talking about him a bit ago. I like Tyler. One thing that's impressive about Tyler is he holds himself at a professional standpoint. I mean, he hasn't bodybuilded, but he's in great shape. You can tell the guy lifts, and he's a successful businessman. Both of you guys are in good shape. You know, I think that there's some value to that. I think that people take you differently in the business world when you show up. They're like, oh shit, that guy, oh, he looks kind of jacked. You know, like, I think people do treat you differently. I've seen it. You know, I'm not saying you can paint your way by intimidating people with your bicep muscles, but kinda. I mean, it's a little bit of a weird flex.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you've skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
Yeah. What I wrote down is so with bodybuilding, it seems like you talked about it in the gym and the happiness and stuff like that. What you're basically doing is you're putting your hands, or you're putting your self-worth almost in the hand of a judge, in a way, of a sense of like, hey, you judge me on how I did, instead of like for me, I don't work out for like any kind of intimidation or anything like that. Like honestly, like I don't give a crap if you look at me.
You feel good.
Yeah, exactly. It's endorphins, and then it's for me to be better about for business, for mental clarity, for stress.
Goes into the business world though.
Yeah.
Like it does benefit you.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many benefits.
I don't know why people don't. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be a bodybuilder. You don't need to be a black belt in karate. You don't need to do any of that stuff. But if you're out there even if you're walking every day, I think that there's a lot of power to life when you're in shape, or when you feel healthy and feel good about yourself. Yeah.
I don't think you can really have a successful life without having health be some portion of it.
I agree.
And we have a coach, and he talks a lot about just different all the basically 4 different areas of life, your health, your spirituality, your business, which is like, your money, and then your relationships. If all 4 of those are doing well, then your life is going to be great. What I do see a lot of people doing, and you've talked about it actually here, and I think it's still a healthier coping mechanism than like, going to drugs or alcohol or different things that you talked about. But at the same time, the funny thing that I noticed, at least in myself, Tony and I both been divorced. I did the same thing. I started going to working out. I started going to work. It's still a way of avoidance of dealing with that internal emotional that we're feeling.
That's interesting you say that. Yeah, you're 100% correct too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's you just touched on. You said the 4 things that you need to thrive, essentially.
Yeah.
And I actually the other day, I don't know who your coach is, but he's a smart man. I was thinking about different things of my life, like where my business is going well, my health is going well. Spiritually, I am better about that than what I used to be. Relationship. I believe that when a man has a good woman in his life, in his corner to support him, I think they function at their highest capabilities. I truly believe that. I really do. I know when my marriage was sound and going well, I was very, very efficient in life back then. I managed, you ever heard of Height Funeral Home in Kendallville?
Yeah.
I worked there for 3.5 years, yeah.
Dude, I was going to ask you about that, actually.
Brian DeCamp's one of my favorite people in the business.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I still help him out every now and then. He goes on vacation, I'll cover for him, and they're good. They're good people. I love the DeCamps. Great people.
Okay, we got to talk about it after you finish your story.
Yeah. No, that's what was I saying? My mind is blank.
So you're talking about how the woman is very helpful.
No, it's everything. I mean, so when I was thriving back then, I did really well for myself, and I worked for him. And I was happily married. I mean, my marriage was the most sound it had been back then. And so I do believe that having a woman in your life who is a good support system, someone who brings you that peace, and that's the big thing. I mean, at this point, I can make my own money. I can cook my own food. I can do all this stuff on my own. But I need someone who brings that inner peace. If someone brings that inner peace, I'll give you the world. Yeah. And so that's probably my big thing. That's the next step. I gotta find that. Once I find that, then everything will fall together.
I love it.
But I'm not gonna seek too hard. I think it's one of those things. Like I'm talking to a girl right now, and I think that she has the most potential of any of them because she has traditional values. I'm not going to jinx myself, but I do think that's a good fit. So as things progress, we'll see how that goes. But I think it's a vital aspect for a man to function at his highest capabilities. I do believe that.
Love it. I got to tell you a story about Brian DeCamp now.
Oh gosh, yeah, Brian DeCamp. I have a lot of good stories about Brian DeCamp.
Well, I got one. You have to mention that you came on this podcast, and then he'll remember me. He will not. I don't think he'll forget me. So we were actually skateboarding. It's funny because Cody, he's the guy who set this all up. You know Cody.
Cody, yeah.
Okay, so Cody and I were skateboarding there whenever I first got into town.
Great parking lot for that.
Yeah, I'm probably 14 years old. All of them tore up all of his flowers all around it. Oh. They tore them up for some reason. They thought it'd be really funny. He thought it was me. And so he's just sitting there like yelling at me, and then I'll tell you another story that why you did this. But anyway, he's yelling at me. He's like, I'm not mad at all these other kids. All the other kids he's pointing at are the ones that did it.
And you're the one getting nailed.
I'm the one that didn't do it.
Yeah.
But the reason that he was pissed off at me is because I was at the top of his stairs. I think I was actually on a bike at the time because I went back and forth between biking and skating. I was at the top of it, and I was going to ride down it. As I'm on top of it, grabs the bike out from underneath me. I almost fall off of it, and he throws it in the middle of the road.
Brian did? Yeah. That's hilarious.
He literally threw it in the middle of the road.
I couldn't imagine him ever being like that.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny. No,
he thought I'd mess with his flowers.
Did he realize that you didn't afterwards?
No.
So he still to this day thinks you screwed up
Probably.
his flowers. Damn.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can write him a letter sometime.
Yeah, well, you could let him know too that
it wasn't him. It was the other guys.
Yeah, the guys that he was saying that it wasn't. But yeah, I thought it's so funny because I remember going home and telling my dad, I'm like, yeah, Dad, this guy, like, you need to go whoop this guy. This is some bull crap. He almost freaking pulled me off and he threw my bike in the middle of the road. And then my dad had a conversation with him. I think he apologized to my dad and all this other stuff.
Brian's a nice. He must have been acting out of character. I don't know. He normally wouldn't be that way. I was fortunate he was a good mentor. He was one of the better mentors I've had for funeral service. I learned a lot. He kind of like, it was baptism by fire. He threw me into it. So I was an intern. I got through my internship. I dealt with depression during all that. And then I was working at McCombs as a licensed funeral director. I passed my state boards, and they were paying me some shitty wage. Like, I think they were paying me like $35,000 a year.
Wow. For
starting off as a funeral director back in that would have been 2015, I think, at that point. And I'm like, this is all I know. This is what I got. Well, it was like a month into that. I get a Facebook message one night from Brian DeCamp. He goes, hey, didn't know if I'd be able to interest you in a job. He's like, my funeral director just quit and I need somebody. And I'm thinking, God, he's gonna want me to like do all this kissing baby shit in a small town, all this like small town funeral director stuff. Because it's way different. Small towns to city settings. Like metropolitan areas, they run their funeral homes 8 to 5, and then they have like a night crew. In a small town, I am the night crew. We do it all. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to get into all this. He wound up paying me double what I was making, and I was like 23 years old, 22, 23 years old at the time. I paid for my own wedding cash. Like I was killing. I bought a new Mustang, bought the house on the lake. I'm like, God, this is really good. This is the good life. But yeah, so that was a good thing for me. I mean, he took care of me. I'm thankful for having that option.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was there like 3.5 years too, so we had a good working relationship.
Dang.
But, yeah.
When you think back on bodybuilding, something interesting. One of my professors I disagreed with at Manchester, he was like more of a vegan, and he had a lot of evidence against why men shouldn't be huge. But he had kind of started to try
to. A beta male.
Yeah, he had started to like founded this this theory that men have a problem being small, or that like some people have an eating disorder where they're like, I never want to be smaller again. Do you identify with that? Or are you going to be okay now that you're out of bodybuilding being like, you know what, someday in the future, maybe I'll cut down to 3 meals. Maybe I'll back off a little bit and I'll be 200 instead of 235.
I'm 215 right now. I've dieted down.
Okay, so you cut a little bit from when you were in bodybuilding show.
I was 230. Yeah, I was dieting for a show actually not long ago. So
would you be okay at 200, or would you be like, dude, this sucks?
I'd be ripped at 200. I'd be ready to compete on stage at 200. So it is a mind. It screws you with mentally. Yeah. So you go from. And I noticed it after my shows even. So if you go from 3-4% body fat to all of a sudden, well, the show's over. Now I got to start going into an off season or in a health phase, because it's not healthy to walk around 3 to 4% body fat. You just can't do that. Naturally, you can't do that. And if you can, something's not right with you. Cancer or something seriously. No joke. But I really struggled after shows, because it's like, okay, my abs are going away, I'm getting fat, what do I do? What do I do? And it's kind of, it's a scary thing, because, and I think this is where a lot of bodybuilders really start to develop issues, is then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm gonna push more drugs, I'm gonna take more steroids, I'm gonna take more of this so I can stay leaner as I grow. And it's kind of like you start to spiral out of control. I remember Geez, I mean, there's certain coaches I've had that, they want you to push everything under the sun, steroid wise, and it's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Long term, how's this going to work? I still want to try to have a kid maybe someday or something. I'm not sure if this is going to screw me or not. A little testosterone's one thing, but you're talking tren, insulin, growth hormone, all these things. I'm like, oh, geez, how old am I? 30? Do I really want to die at 45? It's so, but you can't look that way without that stuff, So it's a hard fine line,
Schwarzenegger had talked about just looking at himself and being like, I wanted to I could look at my body and be happy with it, and everybody would give me compliments, but I still knew that, like, oh, my upper chest, I could use a little bit more here, and maybe this muscle, I can't see the anterior delt the way that I should, and like these sorts of things.
I look at myself every morning, and the girl I started dating, she gasses me up. She makes me feel like I'm like, He-Man, and that's good. She can keep those compliments coming. but no, I look at myself. I'm like, God, I'm like a fat piece of shit right now. I look small. I'm like skinny fat. What is this? And she's like, oh my God. She views me as a Greek god. And I'm like, girl, you need to get your eyes checked. But yeah, no, I definitely have that issue. I think they call it body dysmorphia. I think it's like a form of body dysmorphia, right? So I don't necessarily have an eating disorder. I like to eat. I'm 6 meals a day. I got chicken and rice out in the car after this podcast. It's going down. I'm already thinking about Uncle Ben's rice right now. Like he's got me hooked up. But
it's so interesting too, because there's a lot of personal trainers will be like, hey, we put muscle on you. It's going to increase your metabolism. Yeah. It's going to help with your joint health. Yeah. It's going to give you new health benefits that you didn't have previously, especially if you're diabetic. You have more places to store glycogen and that sort of thing. And then I talk to guys like, there's a really talented physical therapist at Indianapolis Fitness and Sports Training named Bill Hartman. He was huge when he was a D1 football player and javelin thrower, but then he said at a certain point muscle comes at a cost. Like once you get past a certain amount of muscle, you start to lose endurance, you start to lose mobility, you start to lose a lot of things. And so he was basically like, which is one of the reasons why I kind of switched, because I was lifting a lot and I switched mostly to calisthenics now because it was like getting to the point where it's locking my body up. And
it's terrible. Bodybuilding has broke things in me that will never be fixed. I mean, I broke my rib one time leg pressing like 2,000 pounds. I mean, it was, I literally went really deep and I felt my rib break.
My gosh.
I mean, I did one of my contests. I didn't realize that. I felt like I had tendonitis. But it was actually, I had a hairline fracture in my elbow. It was a stress fracture from lifting heavy dumbbells.
Holy crap. Was that too fast or too?
I don't know when it happened, what happened, but I wound up getting an MRI and it caught it. I just kept training through it. I mean, so I was so into bodybuilding, to be honest. Like, you've probably heard those, you've probably seen the theory before where it's like, you ask an Olympic athlete, you have this red pill or this blue pill. If you take this red pill, you'll die in 5 years, but you'll win everything you do. Mm-hmm. I would have picked the third pill that said you'll die like tomorrow, but you'll be a champion. Everybody's gonna remember you as a champion. I didn't care. I mean, I would have done anything.
Live fast, die young.
I'll never forget this story. You guys, Iron Society gym in town. Mm-hmm. So the owner, Lonnie Whitlock, used to be a friend of mine. Not anymore.
Used to be?
Yeah, not anymore. I had a falling out with them. Yeah, they got involved with my divorce, and they shouldn't have.
Gotcha.
Stuck their nose in it. Anyways, I'll leave that alone. So Lonnie one time said to me, though, this is back when we were friends. This is a very supportive friend back then. I had in 2019, I competed at this local Fort Wayne show, and it was like 2 weeks out from the contest, and I had to do fasted cardio that morning. I did make it to a manager meeting down here at the funeral home by like 7 a.m. So I was like up at like 3:30 in the morning, trying to get cardio, get food around, get my suit around, so I'd shower at the gym, all this stuff. Get around and get to my car. I'm like, okay, I got 30 minutes to eat this meal one. It was like egg whites and oatmeal and blueberries. And I had it sitting on my center console. I had this Mustang. I had it sitting on my center console. And I go to put my seatbelt on. I don't know why I was parked. I don't know why I was going to put my seatbelt on. But I prep brain. You don't think right. You have low carbs. I hit my elbow on the container of the egg whites and oatmeal, and it fell on my car floor. My dogs had been in my car the day before, and I have a husky mix that likes to shed. I had dog hair in my egg whites. I had grit from my ex-wife's shoes, like all the stuff on these egg whites and oatmeal. I had no time to go home. And I'm just like, fuck my life. Like what do I do here? Like, what do I do? I'm thinking, champions are made. Champions are made right now. This is what it takes to be a champion. So I scooped it up the best I could. I think I even got the car mat and like shook it. So like whatever little egg white crumbles could fall into my Tupperware container because I had to get every little ounce because I was so hungry. 2 weeks out from my show is a horrible time period. You don't even function anymore. Like you just don't even like life. And got it all on there and I'm like, okay, you got this. And I remember taking my first bite and it was like grit. It was like eating like dirt and like dog hair. I had dog hair hanging out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I don't win this damn show, and I remember I told Lonnie at the gym that night, I said, Lonnie, I just did this. He goes, oh, you're going to win that show. He's like, there's no way. He's like, no one else has done what you did.
Like,
I won that show. I won that show. And I'm like, and that's what it takes when you got to eat dog hair, and God only knows what was on that car floor, you know. My ex-wife, who knows what she had stepped in.
Well, you know they make protein shakes at the gas station too. I mean, I know it's not the same distribution of macros, but
like, now that I'm not as like serious about it, like I that's what I would have done.
you got
back then 40
grams from muscle milk or whatever the heck.
Which would have been ideal. Like, truthfully, it wouldn't have really probably mattered. But in my head, I had to eat these egg whites and this oatmeal on this car floor because I wanted to be a champion. So, the things that I did for that sport, and I was so hardcore about it. And now I look back and I see the people that are like in that same position now that I was in, and I'm like, God, you're such a douchebag. Like your life sucks, man. Like get out of it while you still can. And I know I paint a horrible image of it, but truthfully, it was really good for me, bodybuilding. It taught me a lot of discipline. In a lot of ways, it kind of saved my life. Like I needed something to sink energy into, and that was where it went, was bodybuilding. It's a part of me, always will be a part of me. And I'll probably go back to the stage someday again. I don't know when. I think when I turn 35, I'm 30 right now. I'll be 31 in November. When I turn 35, I can start competing in the Masters division. So it'll be a little easier to get my pro card then. So I might do that. If we'll see what my health's like then, and we'll see how I feel. And a lot of it right now, I'm so focused on the businesses. It's more of a priority. And you understand what it's like when you sign that new construction loan. And,
you got to figure it out.
It's like, this might be more important than getting on stage for that $5 trophy.
Yep.
I gotta be a little bit more functional and a little more intuitive right now with the business than worry about the trophy. Yeah. So we'll see where it goes.
I'll say one thing on that, and then we're gonna ask you a last question. Is I struggle with that portion exactly about what you just talked about right there, of like you sign on something. So we sign on a lot of stuff, and then you commit to it, and then you got to basically see it all the way through. Yep. And then it's difficult, like you said, to go worry about like as much of your health. And then I noticed like my health, I'll wake up early, I'll make time for it. But then like relationships and spirituality, which it sounds like you're in similar, and I'm sure other people who listen to this podcast are probably in similar spots of like, that's the first thing to go is your spirituality and your relationships, and then you prioritize stuff. Because I'm like, man, so in my head, if I signed it, I agreed to this, I'm gonna see it through, and like if not, everything falls through. And I'm realizing that's not. It can all work.
I would say balance. Balance is the key in my world for me to be able to do what I do, and it's probably for you too.
Yeah.
I mean, because like you said, you start putting things on the back burner. You don't really want to put spirituality on the back burner. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of an important topic, right? I mean, it's kind of an important aspect of who you are. Mm-hmm. Your relationship, you definitely don't want to put on the back burner. Otherwise, you'll do what I did to my ex-wife, and you'll leave her. Or they'll leave you. I mean, you don't want that. You don't put someone on the back burner when you commit to them.
Yep.
So you do have to keep those things together. But also, you want to be healthy. You got to be healthy for your family.
Right.
I don't have kids yet, but I mean, you do, correct?
No, I do not. Tony does have one.
You want to be around for a little while and make sure that your kid sees you and you can see your kid grow up. So you want to be healthy. You want to be in shape. And I think there comes like a protective side to that too. You got to be like, scare off the boys. Do you have a daughter or a son?
I have a daughter.
Yeah, so you got to scare off the boys. Yeah, you got when she's like 16, they need to be scared of dad.
Everybody's scared of Tony, so that's all right.
Exactly.
Everybody's scared of Tony.
But and then the business, you can't do anything without the business being successful. I mean, it's those four things. They have to be balanced out. You got to fill each one of them. Each one of those cups has to be filled.
Right.
And I think that's where people go wrong in life. I believe that when people fail in one of those areas, the balance is thrown off. Mm-hmm. And when the balance is thrown off, you cannot thrive.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Yep.
So are we going to talk about Tinder?
No.
We don't have time now, man.
I'm kidding.
That's next
I'm
one,
kidding. No,
apparently.
yeah, no, I'll guest star on that one.
We can talk
next.
about it after the podcast, I think.
That sounds good.
So, Craig, you're on your deathbed. You're around death a lot. So
I am, yes.
So fast forward 70 years.
Yep.
You're on your deathbed. You have a final message to the world. It could be a sentence, a paragraph, a mantra. It could be a thought. Just your last final message to the world. It could be on a billboard in Times Square. It's whatever. Somebody, they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that was Craig for sure.
Top
that was
G,
what
baby.
he would say.
Top G, baby. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, when I go back and look at my life, and everybody they look at what I did in this life, which to some might not be much, to some it might be a lot. I hope that I can inspire, especially. I mean, really anybody, but especially like men who. I mean, truthfully, yeah. No, I want to inspire men to become their best selves. I believe in traditional values. I always have since I was a kid. And I think that, we have duties as a man, and society definitely kind of tries to deviate away from that nowadays. They try to teach us that, men don't need to be men anymore. Well, I don't think that's right. I don't think that works very well. When you have a society of weak men, you have issues. And I think we kind of can see that as, not you guys in this building, everybody in this building, you guys all fit that top G criteria. That's I've been following your stuff for a while. I mean, I'm impressed by this guy. I mean, I don't just say that about any person. I mean, you guys have it figured out here. You have values. The four things. You balance all those four things. You're a man about how you do things. You have duties each day when you wake up that you have to, take care of. And I believe in that. I think that's how life should be. I mean, we all have days where we don't want to do shit, but we still got to do it. You got to get up and do it. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses for that. And so my biggest thing would be to inspire people, especially men, to become their best version of themselves so they can take care of the people that they love. I've since I was a kid, I have always wanted to be my best version of myself. I mean, I've always been my own superhero, to be honest. I always have. I've always been proud of who I am. I don't have any issues with that. So, I've discovered who Andrew Tate was about a year ago. I don't know if you guys know who Andrew Tate is. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, as soon as I listen to this guy, I was like, that's literally how I feel about everything. Except there's a couple small things I don't agree with. He's weird about mental health. I think that's a little bit more important than how he describes it. But still, though, the common principles are there. I believe with a lot of his values. So the biggest thing would be if I'm on my deathbed, someone said, "Hey, do you feel like you've left your mark on this earth?" I, without a doubt, will be able to say yes. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that by the time my legacy has come to an end, whoever gets to tell my story will be like, "That guy was a top G." That's what I believe will happen.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the compliments. And then one thing I do want to share with you and the listeners too is like, a lot of people see us a certain way and see me a certain way. They think I got it all figured out. So I just want to be very clear that I don't have the balance all figured out. I'm just working on it all the time. And I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up is like, oh man, I'm off balance in here. And then so they just give up. They're like, well, again, you said make excuses. I'm not making excuses. I'm going to continue to work on figuring it out. I've got divorced as well. I put her on the back burner. It's like my fault. Very similar to the way it was.
I can guarantee you, if I go back and reflect on my divorce, I'm not going to blame bodybuilding on that because I don't think bodybuilding ruined my marriage by any means. I do think that I had my priorities screwed up at times, though.
Sure.
Like making it to the gym was more important than helping her set up her new salon. I mean, there's a lot of little things like that I did too. It's not just all her. So yeah, I think that and that's my biggest thing. But did you learn from your mistakes?
Yep, exactly.
If you learn from your mistakes, then you can never fully fail, in my opinion. And that's the thing in life. I mean, you have any moments where you're going through some type of trial, and you're like, oh man, I screwed this up. I royally screwed this up. What am I going to do? Learn from it.
Yep.
Learn from it. Don't do it again. Next time you do things better. Figure it out. It's not. I don't think in life we really can ever lose if you can learn from from that event.
Yep.
So I mean, that's
Yeah,
how
I think
look
that's
at it.
yeah, that's the lesson. That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
like that's everything. Because like a lot of people will look at people like you or look at people like us, and then they think that they can't ever achieve that or we're a certain way, and it's exactly that. It's like no, everything that was a failure, it doesn't just like oh now I failed. That means I can't be in a relationship anymore. It means no, I failed. Okay, what were the reasons that this failed? Why did this happen? What did I have to do? What did I play?
Become better?
Yeah, what did I do in this situation? And then just find a way to continue to grow yourself and to be the best version of yourself, what you talk about.
100% agree. And you kind of touched on something with the how people perceive you or view you. I know like, and the social media world's way different than real life, right?
Yeah.
And don't ever get that confused. Like that's one thing I would say to the listeners. Don't ever believe that someone posts something on social media that they have their everything's like
100%.
gold chains and Maseratis and beautiful women on their boat. I mean, I have all that, but I don't have that. I don't have the Maserati, and I don't have the boat or the beautiful women.
He's got the beautiful women. We already talked
Tinder.
about her earlier.
No, I'm kidding. But no, in all seriousness, people see that. I think sometimes people kind of judge you off that. They're like, well, that guy's he's full of himself. No. And so that was something back in the day I used to be really hung up on. I used to think that people would, if I posted something, they perceive me like I'm a dick or like I'm full of myself. Even bodybuilding photos.
Yeah.
Like I was scared sometimes to post photos like people are going to think that I'm into myself. No, I'm just proud of my progress, know. But I'm sure you guys get that too. They probably see you and, see money you've made or different deals that you have done. They're thinking, man, him posting that stuff, why is he doing that?
100%.
But that's your life. You worked hard for that, and I think it's okay to be proud of it. And also, they don't think about all the hours and you call them failures or lessons learned that happened along the way. It didn't happen overnight.
Yep.
I didn't just grow my arms overnight. I didn't. You know what I mean? It's a steady, consistent process, and you have to keep balance while you do that. It's hard, but it's not. And so as long as you stay consistent, I think things can pan out and life can be good. You're still going to be a top G.
I like it.
So, all righty. Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Is there how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Oh yeah. So okay. So let me end on this.
Tinder account?
Yeah, I got Tinder. No, I'm off that now. It's a Grinder now. I'm kidding. No. Yeah, but actually, I met the girl I'm dating. I met her on Hinge.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good. So Hinge might be if I get married to this girl, I'm gonna just.
Go give him a 5-star review, baby.
Yeah, it's on. But in all seriousness, so if anyone's ever interested in anything funeral related, I will say Hess Funeral Home. That's the one I own. It's in LaGrange, soon to be in Fort Wayne. We'll be operational next year. The funeral home will be done. We'll be operating in Fort Wayne next year. I can travel anywhere within the state though to do funerals. So if anybody needs something done now, I can assist now. Obviously, the best way to get hold of me, you can Google Hess Funeral Home. The phone number pops right up. I have an Instagram account, Mortuary Muscle, kind of a funny name. People can message me on there. Facebook as well. You can message on there. I don't do any personal training thing. I always get that. People always ask, "Hey, do you do personal training? I don't do any of that stuff. I never wanted it to become a job. Well, I figured once it became a job, I would lose the love for it. So the gym's kind of like my. That's like you said about mental clarity.
Yeah.
That's kind of just for me now. But I definitely could point people in the right direction for coaches and whatever if anyone ever had questions about that though. So been in the game a long time.
I like it.
I lost all my hair doing it, but that's okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I appreciate your guys' time again. It was fun to be on the podcast. I look forward to seeing it and seeing the shininess from my bald head.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on, man. It was awesome, and yeah, I think that people get a lot of value. I mean, you've lived a lot of life, and you've gone through a lot of different things, had a lot of different lessons. So
yeah, definitely have. It's hard to believe sometimes. You sit back and think, gosh, I endured that, I went through that. Yeah,
Yep.
It's kind of neat. That's what life's about, though. I'll conclude on this. I want to conclude on this. There's this poem. It's read at funerals all the time. It's called "The Dash," and I'm not going to read I'm not going to state the whole poem, but essentially the principle of the I guess the meaning of it is you have your date of birth, and you have your date of death. None of that shit matters. It's the dash, the in between, how you live your life, what you do during that lifetime, creating that legacy. That's what it's about. So if I can get anyone to take anything away from this, from my perspective, it would be to make sure you live your dash the way you want to live it.
love it.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys on the next one. Peace.